La lune trop pâle caresse l'opale de ses yeux blasés. Princesse de la rue, sois la bienvenue dans mon cœur blessé. Les escaliers de la butte sont durs aux miséreux. Les ailetés moulins protègent les amoureux.
That lovely snippet of music is from the repertoire of today's guest, Fifi La Mer. She's a singer and an accordionist, but of course she's so much more. Well, welcome to Marriott Side Trips, the podcast where I, Stephen Marriott, chat to the everyday heroes I meet when I travel. However, given all the restrictions of late, I've been forced to stay closer to home. So for this first season, I've been meeting London's traders and artists who've been keeping the city ticking over. Though now the world is starting to reopen, and getting out of here you might say, I'll soon be travelling to Spain to walk another Camino de Santiago pilgrimage and write research for my third Reluctant Pilgrim novel. Suffice to say, I'll be taking a break from the podcast, which has been a kind of experiment for me, but one that's kept me reasonably sane during these strange times. Or rather, the resilience of my wonderful guests has rubbed off too, and hopefully on my regular listeners as well. So, for this last episode in the season, I caught up with Fifi at her home in North London. She also happens to be a friend of mine, and I used our chat as an opportunity to delve further into her life, including growing up in Paris, as well as discussing her lockdown story. Hello, Fifi.
Hello.
So I'm with Fifi La Mer in her home in Bounders Green, which I have to admit I don't know much about North London at all really. So I'm a little bit outside of my London comfort zone. But we're in Bounders Green and walking here from the Tube, which seemed like a sort of an old 1930s tube station, one of the old original ones. Seems like a really nice neighbourhood, residential, quiet neighbourhood in many ways. But having said that, I think we're pretty close to the North Circular. I don't know, are we quite close to Alexandra Palace? So just give us context of your neighbourhood and what happens here.
Well, it's quite a nice place to live, especially when you're a musician and you don't drive, because my musician friends pick me up. So because the North Circular is so close, it's just about 100 meters. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't think so because you can't hear it.
No, it's so peaceful and quiet.
Yes. And so it's really practical, and because of where it's situated, when you don't drive and you need a lift, it's ideal. It's also a really nice area. We all know each other on the street, in the neighbouring streets too. People are, it's quite relaxed and everything. And we had a lot of problem with cars cutting through in order to save a bit of time, but that's been stopped. So that is fantastic. There's no more constant noise and no more constant pollution. Well, I was just saying, I'll just record a bit of sound in case I need to block out any cars or anything. But there haven't been any cars. No, but that's just recent, since like August.
Well, it was working clearly.
Yes, definitely.
But do you get out and about here, or normal circumstances when there wasn't lockdowns or things? I guess there must be a green or a park here. Given
there are loads of parks everywhere. The names I'm not sure. I just walk in.
Yes.
Broomfield Park there is there, but there's also Alexandra Palace not far.
Yeah.
So there's lots of nice walks one can do, and yes, because we had the problem with the traffic, we all started an organisation on this street in order to fight this situation, and so as a result, we all know each other and we all meet up all the time, and we go to the pub, and it's and there's a little market just up the road, and there's lots of very nice things happening all the time.
And so you said we're close to Alexandra Palace. So how far are we from Hampstead Heath? Is that pretty far, or?
Hampstead Heath is a little bit further, but I do go there quite regularly when I can, when it's nice and warm. To the ladies' ponds,
Oh, do you? Oh, you swim there?
Yes, it's fantastic. I haven't been this year yet because the water must be absolutely freezing because the weather was so bad. But hopefully I'll be going soon.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I've walked past them and seen them. Amazing. And you've got the really big one there, which is mixed.
Yes.
Wow.
The ladies' pond is the best, I think. Anyway, really nice.
Well, I will have to come and explore. It's a nice reminder to go back to Hampstead Heath and maybe go for a swim when it warms up, and maybe explore this neighbourhood a bit better. So obviously, I mentioned you're a musician, French music, singer, accordionist. whistler. I was reminded last night when I was listening to some of your CDs. I know you have a repertoire of music, really. So why don't you, instead of me getting it wrong, just explain how your music, what kind of music is it? It's a variety in many ways, is it not? With obviously a strong French influence.
Well, because I play music only, I have to think of different ways I can get work, basically. So we have the band called Dolala, which is a quartet with double bass, guitar, myself, and a saxophonist that plays tenor and clarinet as well. Mm-hmm. We play a mixture of jazz and French music, and even a bit impressionist music, which is a bit like Erik Satie and so on. And because we played many, many times in a place called Brasserie Zédel in a restaurant in center of town, we played there maybe 450 times, maybe 500 times.
Wow.
So we kind of adapted our repertoire to fit in the venue, because the more you fit in and what you do works, the more you work, the more you enjoy what you're doing, because it's going down well.
Yes.
And also it's nice to keep things fresh, so always to think of new ideas in order to keep the work, but then the work is better, so you enjoy it more, and then more work brings more work, etc. Okay. So there's this, and I do a lot as a duo acoustically, which is lovely because you can just walk around and mingle. It's mostly for parties or little events. Mm-hmm. And that's really very pleasant to do, and it's a bit not old-fashioned, like not in fashion, but not many people do it because it's not an easy thing to do. Mm-hmm. But it's really nice, and I enjoy it. So we've got a repertoire that fits also the restriction you have in sound, because when you're outside you have to play quite loudly, except if you're in a courtyard, then there's some kind of echo, so you can play more subtly. But so, you need to adapt. So basically, we play what we enjoy, but also depending on the demand, on what works, because one doesn't always know what we do, which sounds best. It's eventually we find out. Yes. And then we may as well do what works, that we enjoy doing, rather than do something that's, so we go into that direction. So what we do always changes. Mm-hmm.
So variety depending on location.
And amplification, but basically it's music from about 1880 to the 1970s, mostly French, but also jazz, 20s, a bit jazz, a bit of 1950s school jazz. So basically
and you do a couple of more modern covers. There's a Lou Reed song you do, which made me smile last night.
Yes. But they're classic tunes also. Yeah. We do also a Stranglers tune. What is it? I haven't played it for so long.
Okay.
Golden Brown we play, yes. Yeah. And we play the Lou Reed, It's Such a Perfect Day.
Yeah, it's really nice,
It's a nice tune to finish with.
Yes.
When we do a concert. So we try to vary, and also so nobody's bored. That's the last thing we want is people to get bored. So we need to go from something nice to something different, but without compromising with, the way we see music and our sound.
You touched on Zédel, and I'll come back to that at some point. So that obviously you say that's where you've been playing regularly as a band, but it's music which how we met, and I guess that's probably how you meet a lot of people through your music. And initially it was Cath Circus bringing Bastille Day to Waterloo.
Yes, I remember.
And we met that way. And I think every time we've met, which has been quite a few times now, it's always involved music and drinking. Normally, and often your music. So there was the event in Waterloo for the Bastille Day. Then I think you might have been next to Emma's shop when she had a sort of closing down party, and you you were a guest, but you very kindly sort of rocked up with your accordion and played some amazing numbers, I think, which everyone got a little bit emotional. And then I think maybe we've been out a couple of times for dinner.
Yes.
And so and of course Emma had her birthday at Zédel. So
I remember.
Yeah, so that was more on a professional basis, because obviously you were entertaining a packed house. It's always been, but what has come through, because we've had a few conversations, and I admit maybe one or two of them, especially that night when you were down in Southfields and we went to the Turkish restaurant. Remember?
Yes, of course.
That was quite a wine-fueled dinner. So my memory might be a bit sketchy, but about all of the conversations. But I know that there seems to be a theme, not a theme, but what has come out of the conversations is that you're a very resilient person, I think.
Oh,
and I think for you, there's no way but your music. And to consistently earn a living from music is a challenge because it's the arts, it's music, it's competitive, and it's hard for people but to consistently make a living through it is tough. And obviously we've just been going through various lockdowns. That must have been even tougher. But as I say, I just want to try. Do you know where that resilience comes from, or that determination just to play music, and that's what you do, not to, how would I put it, take the easy way out with a 9-to-5 office job, maybe?
Well, I don't think it's the music. I'm just like this by nature, and I'm like this with everything.
Okay.
Resilient, and I enjoy doing music, so that's why I do it. And I don't think I'd be very good to do a 9-to-5 job, and I'm not even sure I would keep a 9-to-5 job. So, I don't know, but I do what I do because that's what I want to do, and I'm not doing it because it's difficult. I do it because I enjoy it.
Okay.
And I've been doing it for a long time, so I'm not going to change now because it took a lot of time and work getting to the point where I am now, where I'm, quite happy to be quite busy working and working with fantastic musicians. And it's quite difficult running a band now. I've got everything working really well with the band and everything. I don't want, if there are musicians around, why can't it be me? So I'm resilient by nature, but I think it's not just the music. I'm the same thing. It's the same about if I'm going to decide I'm going to do something, whatever it is, it's just the way I am.
Once you made your mind up on it. Yeah.
Well, it's just, for me, it's no effort. It's just the way I was.
Okay.
I was kind of raised a bit like this because I was an ice skater since the age of 4. So I had to wake up at 5:30 in the morning just to go to ice skating. And then I was going to little school. And then I went to bigger school and I was still ice skating. And it was really, really tough. So after that, everything is easy. So it doesn't take any effort for me to be resilient. It's just normal.
Disciplined as well.
I am disciplined, but I do. The thing is, if you put a little effort into something, the difference is tremendous. And I want to have a good life, a life that suits me.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I don't want to just think, I would like to do that, but I'm too lazy. That would...
Well, I guess there's an average for a reason, because the average is the average. And so to be better than the average, you have to do something different or work harder or be determined. So it's kind of interesting just listening to that. But nonetheless, I think I know what you do is you perform. That, it's a bit like with the pubs being closed, a landlord pulls pints or serves drinks. And in many ways, it's the same, because you serve people by entertaining and performing and giving them a service. So there was a temporary reprieve in the summer with you being able to perform a little bit.
Yes.
And I know you returned to Zédel's, but you've just returned to Zédel's as a band with Ooh La La. What was that What was it like to? Because I think, did you have a couple of weeks there recently, and you've just come to the end of that latest stint?
Well, we were extremely fortunate because we can play completely acoustically. So in July, when it was possible to play outdoors,
last July,
we were very fortunate that, again, Zédel asked us if we could play on their terrace, and this was the most surreal experience in music I've ever had, because there was just Alex Garnett and myself, or Ollie Wilby and myself.
So the terrace was open in terms of the cafe
terrace,
part?
Yes. The restaurant was open, but they were not allowed to have music indoors.
Okay, I see, that was it. So you could, at that time, you could eat indoors, but no music.
Yes, you could eat indoors with not the table being too close. And so we'd be outside just to lure the people in. And there would be no one around except homeless people and movie stars or very famous people.
Walking the empty streets. I mean, it was like to me you were busking, but you weren't busking in a sense, because you were part of the restaurant.
Exactly.
But I do remember in a conversation you said you'd get regular homeless people who would sometimes come past for you, or maybe a famous person who was on their daily walk because there was nothing else to do.
Exactly, and because we played there, I think it was 3 or 4 days a week for 2 hours, when we were used to, everybody walked past at exactly the same time every day. Right. So when a homeless person wouldn't be passing by, we start wondering what happened. And have you seen? And then they'd come a bit later, and we thought, oh, that's a relief.
Good. Yeah.
But it was great fun. And to start with, it nearly brought us to tears just playing, outside and at least getting out and seeing a little bit of a light. But it was last July.
And it's the heart of London, obviously, sort of a Piccadilly stroke Soho.
There was no one around.
And it just completely empty.
Completely empty. And then Zédel opened, so that was good. But we already had been playing a little bit, so we were not quite as emotional as we would have been if it was...
you'd regrouped as such.
Yes, so that was September and October. Then there was another lockdown,
which is only just ended.
No, that's the second lockdown.
That one, yes, of course. Yeah, that's the mini lockdown.
The mini lockdown.
Yeah. I forget there's been so many.
Yeah, and then we restarted again in November, December.
Yeah.
And then that was it.
Christmas time then, yeah. There's talks of new variants of things, but it feels like we do have a proper road map now. And things are happening. How did it feel coming back more recently then to Zédel? Did it feel good to actually know that there's hopefully consistency of performing and obviously inside you? But this time you're performing inside, and was the restaurant full again, or how was it?
It was really good to be working again, but we can't live financially solely on Zédel.
No.
And the thing is, Zédel is nice because it's local. It's great for us to do. We love playing there. And it's better than nothing at all, because many of our musician friends haven't been playing at all. But that doesn't keep us, in business financially, and everything, all the parties, all the shows, everything is not happening. And
of course,
that's what is really a problem for us. But playing is something anyway.
Yes.
And but it would be good if the financial side of things was to improve, because the self-employment grant is just not cutting it at all.
No. Okay. Well, hopefully there does feel like there's light at the end of the tunnel. But I wanted to just touch a bit more, as I said, on your music, because I was listening to a couple of your CDs last night, and just reminded me that your voice is, how would I say it? You don't seem to need to take much breath in between. It's just strong but soft. Is it just natural, or did you have to train your voice, or are you just one of these lucky people that's been given a gift by God and you've got that voice there? Because it seems effortless.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, really.
There's some things you can't really control, which is tone, and you have the tone you're born with, and which is who you are in some extent, but you need to improve on it. And I do practice and do all sorts of exercises in order to be able to get those difficult notes effortlessly.
Yes.
And also, what you think of voice is one thing, but the phrasing is part of the voice, and the time, how you phrase and how you time. And so you can understand better what somebody's saying depending on how they phrase and where they place their notes. And that's what makes the voice nice. But it's not just all tone, it's the mixture of different things. And I've been thinking really a lot of how to phrase everything in order for it to mean something, and not just, these are just words. I want people to understand or to be able to relate to whatever I'm singing about. And this is very common in French music, in English as well, in pop, but more so in French, although it's a lot of words and important.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to do is do that word thing as telling a story, but at the same time to use the music by using the tempo and the timing and the phrasing in order for it to have an impact and for it to move people. Because sometimes what I like is for taking the people's breath away is maybe a bit exaggeration, but just for people to feel something. And you can do that with dynamics, singing slowly and then a bit louder and all sorts. And with the arrangements, because I make the arrangements for the musical arrangements for a lot of the songs I sing. But I'm also fortunate to be working with the same people for many, many years, and I wouldn't want to be working with anyone else. I'm delighted.
Okay. So you know how you all work then?
Oh, yes. Yeah. No, nothing is... There is some accidental part of it, obviously, because you can't control everything. And but I think about it a lot before I make the arrangements, and then depending on the mood, it will sound different.
I know you were brought up in Paris. Does that have a bearing on your, of course, some of your style being French? But were you surrounded by music as a child? Obviously, I mean, I'm now learning about you did ice skating, and obviously ice skating's to music. So that's got to have, I guess now just thinking, got to have affected things. But Paris would have found its way. And for example, we grew up with your mother in Paris, am I right?
With my parents. With
both, okay.
So I was raised in Paris.
Because your mum's French, but your dad's Scottish.
Yes, my dad is Scottish.
Yeah.
But he did come to France.
Okay, yeah, so I wasn't sure of the situation, no. Yeah.
Yes. And, so I always, even being a little girl, I used to walk around Paris thinking, this is nice, even though it was all I knew, I could tell that it was special. And I always liked music. It was, I always wanted to sing, and I used to ask my mother, I want to sing, or at least how to learn how to play the piano. She said, no, you're ice skating, Stephanie, that's enough. I don't want to hear you sing and play music all day. So that was that. So I had to start music a bit later that I would have liked to. But on the other hand, I'm doing what I want now. So, yes, so it's fine. But definitely, and Paris is very romantic as well. And there's funny things happening everywhere, little images. And now it's getting a little bit more clean, so it's losing a bit of its grit, which is...
The Moulin Rouge is no longer the Moulin Rouge.
No, and Montmartre is no longer Montmartre.
No, that's a shame. That's not such a nice area.
Yeah, well...
Touristy, I guess, yeah.
It's not just the tourists, it's just before, the buildings were made in the sense like, the rich people would live there'd be a huge flat on the first floor, then possibly 2 flats on the second floor, 2 flats on the third floor, 4 flats on the 5th floor, and then chambre de bonne, which is the room where the maids would live.
Okay.
And there'll be a building at the front, and then you go in the courtyard, and another building at the back. So in the same area, you would have people from all different social classes living there. You'd have some very wealthy people, and I'm not saying that everybody liked each other, but they were. I'm not even saying they respected each other, but they were all there, and they muddled through.
Yes,
and it made Paris a lot more interesting because at the bar you could see all sorts of different people, and even they didn't actually communicate too much and go to dinner together. They still cross each other, and it made for a much colourful society. So I think it was more fun, and and people didn't have to commute for hours to go to work, and so it worked a lot better that way. But now everything is taken in Paris with wealthy people because it's so expensive, which makes the place a lot more boring because everybody's the same.
Yes, it maybe lost that vibrancy a little bit then in that sense. But I mean, I've only ever been there as a tourist, but I haven't been for a while, and obviously haven't been able to go anywhere for a while. I can sense that that kind of feeling of how it was when you were growing up with the different people and the movement of people and things. And again, that as a musician and an artist, I can't help to be inspired by that, I guess.
Yes.
I'm putting words into your mouth, just trying to go down a bit deeper in terms of where your music is inside you.
Well, my dad used to listen to jazz all the time, so as a child I used to play, all the time,
yes.
All sorts of records. So it was there all, so I knew all the jazz standards since I was, always.
Yes.
So I didn't have to look for it. I always knew all the tunes. So it makes it easier.
And what about the accordion then? Because I've carried your accordion across the park. We met in Wimbledon once before we went out, and it's, how would I put it? I find it quite intimidating, the accordion. And I'm not a musician myself, so music is a bit intimidating me. But it's bulky, it's got lots of buttons, and it looks complicated. So, was it love at first sight, or did you just love the sound of it, or what drew you to it?
Necessity, as always.
Oh, really? Really? You're a practical woman, aren't you?
Well, I used to sing jazz. That's what I started doing.
Okay, you started singing jazz, right?
And I didn't have, and I was, I learned harmony and everything, and then I wrote arrangements, and I had a great band, and we were working as much as we could, but the money was just not good enough to be able to live properly, and there was not enough work or enough interesting work that I could get anyway. And everybody was always asking me, Stephanie, Fifi, and I was Stephanie at the time, and why don't you play with an accordionist? And I thought, it's not because I'm French that I should be playing French music, because I loved jazz and that's what I wanted to do at the time.
Okay.
But then I thought, well, I'll give it a go. And I started working with a fantastic accordionist called Romano Piazzani.
Okay.
And he really helped me, and we went, we rehearsed and we got a little set together, and it was great. But then, he was busy doing stuff, and I just thought, I'm just going to learn how to play.
Oh, you mean so he was no longer available then?
Well, he was available, but sometimes he was busy, and also just the two of us was not really what people wanted either, because it was not jazz. So I thought, if I can keep what I'm doing with the guys, because I was working with a trio with piano, bass and drums, if I can carry on doing what I'm doing but play the accordion as well, then it could add a little bit of colour.
Okay.
So I started just by adding a bit of colour on the tunes I was already playing, and little by little I wrote the arrangements according to how well I was progressing with the instruments.
So you're telling me you didn't learn the accordion as a child, then you picked it up later?
No, I was 32.
Really? Wow. That's interesting. I should say, actually, it's the accordion is sat here beside your dining table at the end of the room here. And to me, it's still intimidating, because it's almost like a sort of a typewriter turned on its side with the holes for the sound holes and things. But
it's like two typewriters, because there are two sets of buttons. Yeah.
And obviously the squawk box in the middle. So 32 years old, you started teaching that.
How long
did it? Did you pick it up naturally, or was it hard work?
Oh, well, it's still hard work. I'm struggling every day.
Okay.
Oh, it's a battle, constant battle.
Right.
The resilience come into it when it comes to playing the accordion. Yeah. It's a battle, and it's very heavy.
And yet you need to appreciate these things. But when I just that short walk across the park of it, and I'm thinking, you could be on your feet, sets at the late at night.
Wearing high heels,
singing, walking around a bit, perhaps. Now I'm just thinking as well, as you say, with the singing, which, as I say, just seems effortless, but you're pacing it obviously to actually tell a story for the audience, but you're also having to be in time with there's a lot of multitasking going on there.
A lot of multitasking, yes, but it makes things interesting, and well, I feel very fortunate that I found something I enjoy doing, and that I have the...
You're smiling now when you're talking about it. So
I'm glad.
You genuinely love it, clearly.
Yeah, it's much more fun for me to play accordion and sing rather than just sing. Much more fun. It's much more challenging, but I don't mind a challenge.
No. Have you got a name for your accordion?
No.
Okay. Just challenge. Good name. The challenge.
No, but at the same time, I was also fortunate to buy an accordion that sounds good, because when I first bought it, I didn't know anything about accordions. It's difficult to choose an accordion when you don't know how to choose.
Okay.
Or what you're supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate that this accordion is not too big, because if it was bigger, then I wouldn't be able to carry it while singing.
Yeah.
But it's got a good sound, and it responds really well. So yes,
It's a nice colour as well. You can see it's not battered, but it's smoothed, and some of the prints going off and here and there. But it's cream, and it's got kind of pink, white, and kind of black buttons, and it's leather straps as well. So it's
yes.
But it's very much a working accordion. Looking at it, yeah. Okay. So you've performed in quite a few different places. Just when I've doing a bit of research earlier, across London, from the famous Park Lane hotels to the Royal Opera House. I even saw that Ooh La La, I think it was Ooh La La, featured in the ITV series Mr. Selfridge, which I loved, actually. I loved that series. That means I must have not even realised I was watching you as a band. You must have featured at some point.
It was just myself.
Just yourself, okay.
Yes, and it was my friend Simon Whiteside who booked me for this, because so it was me and a guitarist.
Okay. It was a nice series.
It was good
nice
fun.
Period. Yeah, nice period piece.
So they had to give me a men's outfit because they didn't want to damage a lady's dress for it. So I'm wearing a men's suit.
Okay, well I'll have to go back and look out for that scene then. Okay, so but what I was going to ask, you played in a lot of different places. Do you have a favourite venue, or do you have a favourite experience that you remember?
When we play in all these hotels, most of the time it's events, which it's great fun.
Yeah.
I love doing events. I love playing outside as well. I mean, I love working. It's great because, we all get on really well. Mm-hmm. Myself with the musicians I'm working with. There's Julian Berry on bass and Curtis Volp on guitar and Alex Garnett or Oliver Wilby on clarinet and saxophone.
Okay. Yeah.
And, it's great fun working with them all the time. Mm-hmm. So wherever we are and we're working, it's fine, it's outside or indoors. Lately, we haven't done any proper concerts, obviously, because of the situations. No. But we're looking forward to playing proper gigs. And
you're going on tour, aren't you?
Yes.
We're going on tour. Remember people, that live tours and things, but that's happening very soon, isn't it?
It's happening next week from Thursday.
Okay.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're going to be up in Northumberland and one bit in Cumbria.
Okay, heading north then.
Yes.
And do you have a big following up that way then? Or,
well, it's thanks to rural touring, so there are still some restrictions because of the COVID situation.
Yeah, I mean, there still are some restrictions, yeah.
But all the venues have sold out within the restrictions.
Brilliant.
So it should be
Good
really
news.
Nice. Yeah. And we're very excited because it's a show that we wrote with Oliver Wilby during the lockdown.
Okay.
So we had a little bit more time than usual, so we made the most of it.
But it's the history of French music, I believe.
Yes, so this is not a concert. This is a show that would take people from Offenbach to Gainsbourg. So there are tunes, obviously. I will sing and play the accordion, and Oliver Wilby is playing the accordion as well, and he's playing the family of saxophones and the clarinet. And between the tune, we talk a little bit about Paris and about the composers of the tunes, a little interesting facts about this and that, about the history of Paris.
It's called the Journey into French Music.
From Offenbach to Gainsbourg.
Okay, all right, okay.
So the first set basically takes you all the way to World War II, and then we have a little section with film cinema, with some a tune from Fifi and a bit of Michel Legrand medley, and we have also some 60s French pop and 70s French pop and a bit of Edith Piaf, a bit of Charles Trenet, and we talk about all the subject, but we wrote it so it's quite smooth, going from one story to the next, but it's entertaining and there's interaction with the audience. And
so you've had to learn some new songs then?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So you've been rehearsing quite a lot, have you?
Yes. It's been, but it's good. And also quite a lot of narrating. We wrote our own narration, obviously.
Okay.
But
sounds really interesting.
Yes, it is. But we're not used to, learn a text. But we won't exactly say everything we learn by heart, but it's good to have something so we don't forget the facts that are interesting. And so everything is nice and smooth and runs through really nicely. So people can enjoy themselves.
Gosh. But nice to go on the road, hey?
Oh, indeed.
Have you packed your suitcase yet?
Just about.
Oh,
I've packed all the equipment. I checked that everything was working. And this morning, actually, I went to the music shop, which is up the road, to get a few extra cables just in case.
Brilliant. Okay. And one of the things we were talking about briefly just before we started recording was sort of innovation and maybe doing things which you might not have normally done, or finding new ways because of the lockdown and loss of earnings or having the time to do that. So is there anything else which is coming up? And I know you shared a video with me which you've been put together.
Yes, there's an organisation called Live and Local.
Okay.
And I applied for one of their projects, which is called Living Room Project, which is pairing artists with rural communities, and making an arts project together.
Okay.
So my idea was to write a song with the community about what people missed from France and what they're looking forward to doing again when the lockdown lockdown finishes. So we met once a week on Zoom, all of us wearing stripy T-shirts and with a glass of wine. And we spoke about France and what they missed. And we worked into making a song. Yeah. But so there was about 5 verses, and then so we condensed them a little bit. And every week I would bring the song back and see what they thought, and we changed it until it lasted about 3 minutes. And then my friend Alex Garnett made a little video, and he also played the clarinet on it. And wow! And we did a French version and an English version. So in August we're going back to see. We're going back to see those people in Lancaster, in Great Carlton, and we're gonna all sing the song together. We're gonna play for their pétanque final.
Wow, how nice!
So that'll be fun.
Nice from doing that from the from video to in person.
Yes, definitely. We played for them before in 2019 as a quartet, so that's why they requested us, because they were happy with what we did when we played. That's great,
finding another way to bring your music into community which appreciates your music, and then being able to go back in real life, in a sense. Not that that's not real life, but in as a real person live is. I think that's amazing.
But that's all thanks to Live and Local, who organise events, because in person I can't organise anything. I don't have any funding.
Live and Local, are they a northern based organisation, or
they're a rural touring organisation. They're more central of England.
But for rural communities,
rural touring, they organise usually. So,
interesting. Well, again, they found a way, and just keeps you in touch with them.
And it keeps us doing a little bit of what we are doing.
Keeps you sane.
Exactly. And it was quite a different thing to do the video, because we've never really done that before. So that was quite interesting. And I never wrote a song with somebody, and especially with people who never wrote songs before. So that was quite good fun. And I was astonished as how good at it they were all were, really? In rhymings and good ideas. And I thought some of them might be a bit shy and not say anything, but everybody was there. Let's do this. What about this? How about this? It was fantastic. It's very, very enjoyable experience.
And how did the sort of the questioning work? And because obviously people are obviously fans of France, and or as you said, you put the music together in the videos, but it was an interactive Zoom situation. So people were also asking you about history of France, or you as a French person?
No, it was but the whole point was to write the song about them and their experience of France.
I see. Okay.
So they were talking about what they missed, when they went camping with their little children, and what they missed in Paris, what they enjoyed. But we tried to make it in a way that people who don't come from Great Carlton can relate to that song as well.
Yes.
So there's a way of making their experience alive for everybody, because the point, in bracket, to do an arts, something artistic, is for people to see a little bit of themselves in it, or to relate. So that's what we were trying to do. So they tell a story, but in a way that people can hopefully relate to it.
Interesting. We've been talking quite a bit about your music. You touched on your past life and things, and I just wondered, is there anything else you wanted to share with us that maybe I didn't ask you about, which you think is relevant for your music, or just anything really? And also just maybe you could tell people how they can find out more about you, your website and that kind of things, and your music, of course.
Well, there should be, you're going to possibly write the website address.
Yeah, we'll put in the show notes. We'll put the exact links and things.
Exactly. So if anyone is interested, or to book us for an event, or to come and see us at one of our shows, or just interested in what we do, or buy a CD, just go to the link on our website.
What's the name of the website again?
www.ohlalamusic, OHLALAMUSIC.com.
Okay.
No, it's .co.uk.
.co.uk. Well, as I say, I'll make sure that it's the correct link there. But I couldn't remember if it is Ooh La La La.
Yes, Ooh La La. And there's everything is listed there. And yes, and if we're playing close to you and you want to come to one of our shows, please do, because I'll make sure you have a very nice time.
Sounds perfect. So I'm going to put you on the spot now, Fifi, and as the accordion's here, do you think you might be able to play us a little tune?
Yeah, why not? What would you fancy? A little French waltz?
That sounds perfect, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to play for you La Complainte de la Butte.
Okay.
It was written by the son of the painter Renoir.
Wow.
Jean Renoir, so I hope you enjoy it.
I'm sure we will. Thank you.
Haut de la rue Saint-Vincent, un poète et une inconnue. S'il met l'espace un instant, mais il ne l'a jamais revu. Cette chanson est composable, espérant que son inconnu, un matin de printemps, l'entendra quelque part au coin d'une rue. La lune trop belle pose un diadème sur ses cheveux roux. La lune trop rousse de gloire éclabousse son buton plein de trous. La lune trop pâle caresse l'opale de ses yeux blasés. Princesse de la rue, sois la bienvenue dans mon cœur blessé. Les escaliers de la butte sont durs aux miséreux. Les ailes des moulins protègent les amoureux.
Wonderful. Thanks again, Fifi. You can find out more about Fifi La Mer and some of the things we chatted about from the episode show notes over at marriottsidetrips.com. That's MARRIOTTS sidetrips.com. Hope you've enjoyed meeting those not-so-ordinary Londoners who are able to cross my path while I haven't been able to get away. I'm Stephen Marriott, and this has been my London Side Trips. Thanks for listening, and have a great summer.